Last week in Oakland, one of the AFC's oldest rivalries was renewed, and for most of the game, the Kansas City Chiefs made it look as though the calendar had been turned back to the 60s. Number 39, rookie Mark Bailey from Cal State Long Beach, ran for one easy touchdown, and two others were scored by the Chiefs' defense, as Raider quarterback Mike Ray had his problems reading the Kansas City secondary. Cornerback Tim Collier's 100-yard interception return gave the Chiefs the lead at the half. And then the AFC's leading rusher, Mark Van Egan, had the ball ripped from his grasp by number 46 safety Tim Gray, who increased the Chiefs' lead to 14 points. But unfortunately for Kansas City, even the Oakland second-liners were good enough to come back against the AFC's weakest defense. Twice, Mike Ray called on running back Carl Garrett for touchdowns. And for the 12th time this season, the Chiefs had to settle for second best, as they ended their worst season ever, a full 8 games behind the wild card Raiders. In Miami last week, Don Shula's Dolphins had to beat Buffalo and then hope New England would defeat Baltimore. The AFC's leading passer, Bob Griese, got the Dolphins off on the right foot with this screen pass to Nat Moore, who followed number 66 guard Larry Little for a 67-yard gain. Nat Moore continued to show his exceptional value to the Dolphins as he scored with his 13th touchdown of the season, more than any other receiver in the NFL. A later screen pass to Nat Moore was almost a mirror image of the first, as Moore again picked up 67 yards behind Miami's superb downfield blocking. In all, Bob Griese concluded his season by completing 10 of 14 passes, including touchdowns number 21 and 22. The most in the NFL this season, and a Miami team record. The route was complete when Griese handed off to Gary Davis, who found 60 yards of open field awaiting him. But his celebration was somewhat premature. The Dolphins defeated the Bills for the 16th straight time, 31-14. But later events in Baltimore would seal their doom for this season, despite a remarkable record of 10 wins and only 4 defeats. In Baltimore the next day, all the Colts had to do was defeat the already eliminated New England Patriots in order to win the AFC Eastern title. But that proved to be quite a task. Raymond Claiborne's 101-yard return of the second half kickoff helped the Patriots to an imposing 21-3 lead, made to look all the more imposing by the AFC's #1 defensive unit. But then Baltimore's Burt Jones staged one of the year's best comebacks, as he completed 19 of 30 passes for 340 yards, no interceptions, and 3 desperately needed touchdowns. Number 35, Glenn Shake and Bake Doughty, scored the first Baltimore touchdown. And then came a classic Burt Jones blitz-beating screamer to tight end Raymond Chester. For touchdown number 3, Jones play faked and then fired a bullet over the middle to Freddie Scott, number 86, a rail-thin sprinter from Amherst. Unfortunately for all concerned, the game, which won a 3rd consecutive division championship for the Baltimore Colts by a score of 30-24, will always be remembered in conjunction with a controversial early whistle on a Burt Jones fumble. But this dramatic victory should also be remembered, as Baltimore coach Ted Marchibroda put it after the game. It's the greatest comeback I can think of in a game so meaningful. The Denver Broncos, the Cinderella team of the 1977 season, had to settle for a share with Dallas for the distinction of having the best record in the NFL. Both teams finished the season at 12-2 as a result of the Cowboys' 14-6 victory over the Broncos in Texas Stadium. Roger Staubach shared offensive honors with Tony Dorsett, who went over the 1,000-yard mark in rushing. But it was Jolly Roger who put both Cowboy touchdowns on the board, with passes to setbacks Robert Newhouse and Preston Pearson, number 26. The Dallas defense knocked former teammate Craig Morton out of the game on Denver's first series, and then continued to wreak havoc on his replacements, Norris Weiss and Craig Penrose, number 12. While the two winningest teams in football slugged it out, the two newest teams both won last week. In Seattle's Kingdome, the resident Seahawks beat the Browns on this Jim Zorn touchdown pass with only 52 seconds left in the game. In achieving their narrow one-point victory, Seattle intercepted Cleveland's rookie quarterback Terry Luck a total of 4 times as they handed the hapless Browns their 6th setback in their last 7 games. This from a team that was in first place with a 5-2 record at midseason. The 2019 win was Seattle's 5th of the year, and it made the Seahawks the best second-year expansion team in modern NFL history. In Tampa, the league's other newcomer gave its fans a big Christmas surprise with a second straight victory after losing 26 in a row. The St. Louis Cardinals' notorious big play offense was completely stifled by the tangerine-shirted defenders from Tampa Bay. All season long, through thick and thin, the Buccaneers' defense has played tough, a fact the Cardinals discovered. Their efforts were rewarded with a total of 21 standing ovations from 56,922 ecstatic fans. But on this final day of the season, the big surprise was the Tampa Bay offense, led by quarterback Gary Huff and wide receiver Morris Owens, who combined for 2 long bombs against the battered and beleaguered Cardinals secondary. In the second quarter, the combination applied the clincher when Huff hit Owens for 61 yards and the winning touchdown. If Cardinal coach Don Coryell looked shell-shocked, it's understandable. The Cardinals have lost 4 straight, and their future, as well as his, is shaky. But for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their faithful followers, the frustration and jokes are finally over. The Buccaneers are on a 2-game streak. The future looks bright, and everyone associated with the team can hardly wait till next year. The great Atlanta Falcon defense has now even reached the club's special teams. Last week against New Orleans, the Falcons set an NFL record, finishing their 14-game schedule with only 129 points allowed. This broke the old mark of 133 permitted by the 1969 Minnesota Vikings. And with a 16-game schedule ready for next year, this mark may never be topped. It's come to the point that when there is a score against Atlanta, they are more than ready to argue the point. If there's anything the defense should have been upset about this year, it would have had to be the lack of offensive support. But such was not the case this time, as the Falcon attack scored 5 touchdowns, including this burst from number 48, Woody Thompson. With the win, Atlanta closed out the year with a 7-7 mark, their best record in 4 seasons. Meanwhile, up in chilly Green Bay, the San Francisco 49ers stirred up a cool breeze when number 40 Wilbur Jackson whisked for 29 yards and a touchdown. But the Packers had some weapons of their own. Rookie quarterback Dave Whitehurst had his best day as a pro, completing 17 of 22 passes, including this toss to tight end Rich McGeorge, number 81. Still, it took the Packer defense to pull the game out. Quarterback Willie Buchanan, number 28, halted one drive with an interception, batted down a potential touchdown in the end zone, and then stole yet another pass to provide the margin of victory. Buchanan's touchdown return helped coach Bart Starr complete his 20th year of association with the Packers on a winning note. For a club like Green Bay that is just playing out the season, that means a great deal. But under the dome in Houston, there was a game of much significance. The Cincinnati Bengals needed a win over the Oilers to make the playoffs. But Billy Johnson and company weren't very cooperative. Johnson alone accounted for 263 yards in total offense, including this touchdown pass that put the Oilers ahead for good. Said Bengal defender Lamar Parrish, he's got to be the MVP of that club. He can do everything and more. But it wasn't Billy Johnson who hurt the Bengals so much as it was the Bengals themselves. Mental errors and crucial breakdowns at precisely the wrong moment stopped successful drives. Not even the special teams were immune, as punter Pat McInally found out. The blocked punt set up Houston's second touchdown of the day. But later, McInally redeemed himself when Cincy quarterback Ken Anderson hit him for a score that whittled the Oiler advantage to 2. But that would be the closest the Bengals could get, for even when they seemed to execute their plays correctly, the end result was disastrous. To be the AFC Central champs, the Bengals had to beat Houston. They didn't do it. And now for the second straight year, they will watch the games on television. That's the same vantage point that the Oilers will have. But somehow you get the idea that they'll be enjoying the action a little bit more. The news quickly reached San Diego, where the Pittsburgh Steelers, beneficiaries of the Oiler victory, promptly went to sleep. Chargers bolted to a 9-0 lead before Pittsburgh finally got interested in the game. It actually didn't matter whether the Steelers won this game or not. And it wasn't until number 82, John Stallworth, made this long catch that Pittsburgh even threatened. Finally, the Steelers pushed across 10 points to claim the lead. But then they almost lost it in the waning moments when the Chargers missed victory by a matter of inches. The juggling interception saved the win for Pittsburgh and avoided the embarrassment of such Monday morning headlines as Steelers lose, advance to AFC playoffs. For Coach Chuck Noll, it has been a trying and sometimes painful season, as a broken elbow injury will attest. But what counts the most is that his Steelers, for the 6th straight year, are in the Super Bowl Derby. It's a lead pipe cinch that when the Washington Redskins are in a money game, they call upon Billy Kilmer to get the job done at quarterback. Last week, the 38-year-old took his usual share of lumps against the Los Angeles Rams, but then went out and performed his usual share of miracles as the Redskins won yet another must-win game. Kilmer threw 2 touchdowns, including one to tight end Gene Fugate, number 84, to build a 17-0 lead over the NFC Western champs. But the Rams scored 2 touchdowns of their own and late in the game threatened to send the contest into overtime. Once more, the Redskin magic prevailed as Rafael Septien's kick went wide on the last play of the day, keeping Washington's playoff hopes intact. Now all they could do would be to rest their weary old bones in front of a TV set and hope that either Minnesota or Chicago would lose so that a George Allen crew could be in the playoffs at least once more. But Viking coach Bud Grant was not about to let his club be the fall guys in such a scheme. For if Minnesota did not beat Detroit, they would be out of postseason play. However, that possibility vanished when Minnesota quarterback Bob Lee got hot early. Wide receiver Ahmad Rashad, number 28, caught this one and 7 others to riddle the Lion pass defense, and Chuck Foreman, number 44, got his annual 1,000 yards rushing while scoring twice. Foreman ended the night with 156 yards on the ground. But even this performance was overshadowed by Lion kick returner Eddie Payton, number 34. Eddie returned 1 punt, 87 yards for a touchdown, and also brought this kickoff back for another score. Payton's 2 returns made the game interesting, but the Vikes won and with it took the NFC Central crown. Now only the wild card spot remained, and Eddie's younger brother, Walter, came into New York with his Chicago Bears, needing a win to put them in that slot. Walter also needed some 199 yards to break O.J. Simpson's seasonal rushing record. But with both a rugged Giant defense and slushy turf to contend with, Payton never had much of a chance. The Giants had many chances to win the game as quarterback Joe Pisarcik found his receivers consistently, only to watch them break his heart. Late in regulation time, the Giants trailed by 3 and came close to notching the go-ahead score, but they didn't make it and had to settle for a field goal that sent the match into overtime. The 2 teams slugged it out in the extra period with no results. But then in the final minute, the Bears put on one last drive. Quarterback Bob Avellini hit Payton on a sideline pass that moved the ball into field goal range. However, in Payton's quest for extra yardage, he failed to get out of bounds to stop the clock. The final seconds ticked off as an anxious Bear bench prayed that the kicking unit could make the one play that would grant them the wild card berth. It all came down to number 16, Bob Thomas, who already had missed 2 field goals and an extra point during the game. But this time he did not fail. Only 9 seconds remained when his kick split the uprights. For the first time since 1963, the Chicago Bears had made the playoffs. It's been 14 years of frustration and disappointment for the Monsters of the Midway, but they've finally been readmitted to the championship club. Somewhere there was Papa Bear George Halas, the man who started this whole crazy game over 50 years ago in a Canton, Ohio garage. Somewhere there was George Halas, and he was smiling.